Are you looking for an investor, a VC, to create a successful paddle club? Join me, Julian, and Magnus, and we'll show you how. Welcome, Magnus. Thank you for coming on the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into paddle?
Thank you for having me. So I got involved in paddle just recently, actually, about a year and a half ago, through my co-founder, Adrian Lombes, who got some interesting contacts in New Mexico that were looking to create a whole new concept in paddle. As everyone knows, paddle is the home of paddle is in Mexico, so it seemed quite fitting for us to get involved there. So we had a meeting and found out there was some very nice synergy between our two companies, and decided to go forward with the project. Myself, I've played paddle badly for a period of time. I'm
Oh,
more of
really?
a I'm more of a tennis guy originally, so the crossover has been frustrating for the first couple of months. So I'm starting to learn the tactic a little bit better now. So it's work in progress. Let's just leave it like that.
So now in your company, what other sports did you work with prior to paddle?
So originally, my background is from football, soccer in America, and Olympic handball. And my co-founder is also a current handball professional. And just recently, we've Patrick has joined us, who is quite a prominent handball executive from professional handball as well. So he's led clubs and done quite a lot in paddle as well on the various tours. So we're an eclectic bunch.
Great, great. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about your company and what services you guys provide?
So whereas a Neumann Clarke is pretty new, we've focused on sports and investment into sports. And for the last 2 or 3 years, we've been working on we're helping players find new clubs, especially in handball, and ventured on over into football as well. But now in the recent years, our primary focus is going into paddle. Paddle has exploded, as you guys know perfectly well, across the world, and it's not very often you get the chance to participate in growing a sport. I think it's pretty much a once in a lifetime opportunity, and especially such a great sport with so many aspects to it. So it just felt like a very natural transition for us to get involved. And the opportunities are there, both from a business perspective, but also from a sporting and community as perspective as well. We think that community is the vital component for the success of paddle. So we want to bring that community feeling to every arena that we set up, but not to not forget it's a business as well. So it's a tricky it's a tricky combination.
The balance, right? So can you
It
elaborate on
is.
that when it comes to community? And what are your tactics or models, when you're consulting or putting together a club?
So for us, it is very important that we have a economic sustainability model, but also an environmental and sports model. So by that we mean that for a arena and for a sport to succeed, you need participation from the community. If the community are involved, they will help drive the sport forward. Grassroots is where it is at. Professional sports is fantastic. It's a great sticker, but if you don't have the grassroots, the sports will fail pretty quickly. So, coming from living in Sweden, we've seen the quote unquote rise and fall of paddle. But what we have seen is that the amount of players has been quite increasing quite significantly, even though the amount of arenas have decreased. So what we've done is we've taken a lot of knowledge from that, transferred that over into our model, and the focus there is that it's gone from local to corporate back to local. So we want to focus on the local, incorporate the business side of it, and create a model that is sustainable outside of sports as well. So our model involves restaurants, it involves physiotherapy, coaching, bars, and the leasing of these venues then generates income to the venue, so they're not completely dependent on bringing money and bookings for the arena. And then the final pièce de résistance, as my co-founder, who's French, would say, is that we're also installing EV spots as well, so that the money generated from that also comes back into the business.
So let's talk a little bit more about those verticals, right? So how many verticals are there, and how many of them will in a pie will produce money, and which other ones are investment in time, let's just say, to bring the community together?
Well, so for us, the restaurant and the container area are the two main community ones for us. They're going to be completely open to the public, and anyone from outside can come in, watch a game while they eat or drink, and then hopefully begin to play paddle as well. Our
Is
business
that
center,
subleased out? Is that subleased out, or
yes.
actually you guys? Right. So that's
So
really key and important because the restaurant industry is a difficult industry, right? And managing that is a whole nother business, right? So your best
correct.
route, based on your experience, is just subleasing that out and having a professional do it, correct?
Correct. And I think if you do it yourself and you have a background in restaurateuring, that's fantastic. If you don't, I think the safest model is just to lease it out and then set the ground rules for that. And the same applies for the containers as well. If you're going to rent out
So, so how
to
about the
short form shops.
beers and wine? How about beers and wine and spirits? Is that something you leave to the restaurant, or is that something you hold on to? Because I know the profit margins are pretty high there. And do you even do that? Because mixing, that with sports sometimes is not the best thing.
Agreed, agreed. And I think that's a bit of a balancing act to be had. And I think that's pretty much down to each individual arena to decide which ones they want to go for. In the one that we're building in Metepec, Mexico at the moment, we will have a bar area in addition to the restaurant, which will be run by the arena and not leased out. There is going to be restrictions in what's available there, but we also are very keen to be able to bring in outside people to participate as well. So it is a balancing act and it is a complex basic balance.
You VC investor, angel investor. Obviously, you're not seed money, right? At what point you want to look at companies already kind of proven to what they can do or the potential that they can do? Like, how far off does a business need to be for you guys to invest into?
So I'll give you the example of the Mexico project that we have there. They came with the concept and we facilitated the finance there. And then we developed the concept further on from that as a consulting partner. So we found a angel investor who was very interested in going into the Miami district, actually. But to be part of the Miami expansion, he would have to then invest in the Metapec facilities. So that's in this instance, there's an angel investor. From that, we are pretty open in talking to both venture capitalists and angel investors going forward in our other sites. So we're looking both in America and the UK as our primary two expansion areas. Obviously, the US land becomes a huge issue, and finding an investor with land already is ideal for us. Either through that we can lease it from them, we can purchase or they can use the land as they see fit, and then we can build. But the added advantage of our concept is we can also retrofit buildings. So if you have an old building that can just be renovated, our architect Gabriel Gomora from Barcelona, he is very on board in retrofitting a whole factory, for example, an old factory which can be repurposed.
Um, so again, the let's just say you have a partner in a business and they have an idea and they have a good business plan. How far do they have to get before you guys consider to invest in them? Do they have to have a piece of property first? How far do they have to get, or is it pretty much the idea, the business plan, and you're buying into the people based
So
on the
we buy
experience?
Sure, we buy into the people. I think that's the best way to do it
Gotcha.
because property can be purchased, it can be leased. That becomes a secondary problem. However, if a person isn't dedicated and driven enough to run that business, we're not interested in cooperating with these people because it'll end up to be a failure, unfortunately, or less successful at least. So for us, it's the person number one. And then after the initial conversation that we have with the potential business owner or investor, then we move forward a stage where we say, okay, where are you thinking of expanding to? So it could be anywhere in the world. We've got contacts and ability to go anywhere in the world. And then we find out, okay, do we work well together? If that happens to be a yes, then we move forward and then we start the planning phase of how a center wants to be look like.
So is it shared, the responsibility of acquiring a piece of land, or is it based mostly on that small business?
It really does depend on the location. Us as a company, we're more than willing to invest in the project ourselves as well. If it's a project that we are passionate about, and the location really makes sense. Otherwise, we can find investors to invest in the land and purchase that and have a loan agreement based on that, and then you can expand using that facility.
I got a tough question for you, Magnus. So
Shoot.
what are the terms? What are the basic terms in this paddle thing, going in from business, getting investors or VC or angel? What are the typical terms here?
So I can only speak very broadly, obviously. So with the two models that we have, the loan and the investment model, so we typically find businesses and match them with investors that we have. Then we negotiate a loan percentage, so an interest rate that goes through, and the time of period that is going to be run on, which is what we are currently doing in Mexico. Our other version is that we either as a business invest in the project, or the project is invested through several different investors, so that that can be expanded upon. And then it becomes an equity model where we early on decide who is the primary driver of this business, and then we execute accordingly. So if somebody is good at the property part of it, obviously that has a huge impact on the project.
So determining on what their value is or what they're putting into the business is going to determine the equity split. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so as a Scandinavian company, I mean, we're very transparent and very honest about how we want to do things. So we try to keep it transparent.
Right. And how do you determine if you're going with a loan, a model or an investment model?
Location,
Like,
location, location, I guess, I suppose is the main thing. I mean, if we're going to build in downtown London or downtown Tokyo, obviously property prices becomes an interesting concept. It really does just depend on the location, really.
And the equity part, it's variable too, or you always have a set equity that you want to go into?
It's always based on project by project. We don't want to exclude anyone. So if somebody wants to have 100% equity on that, we'll obviously facilitate that and take a consulting role. But in most cases, we will end up with a 10% equity stake in the company, just to make sure that we're part of the project going forward, mainly because we've got the experience from Europe to drive this kind of business, both from a sporting aspect, but also from a business aspect as well.
So, and how do you adapt? One thing is to do business in Sweden or Spain or France, and then when you jump into this side of the world, it's a completely different thing. Mexico and the United States. So, how do you learn that locally, that the permits and the whole process, how it goes? Miami with the hurricanes, Mexico with the earthquakes,
Yeah.
or the different laws and permits. How do you deal with that?
We cry a lot. We not as sleepless nights. No, we as a company, we've done business pretty much across the world, across the globe. So we have an idea of the cultural differences between, say, America and Mexico, or even the West Coast and East Coast of America. There are differences there as well. So I think for us, it's important just to understand that, okay, as foreigners, we're going into a new market. In terms of Mexico, we've learned so much. I mean, probably Mexico as a market is completely different to most other markets across the globe on an investment point of view. So I think from that point of view, if we were able to do well in Mexico, then we can do well pretty much anywhere. I firmly believe. But the fact that we are Scandinavian, and you've seen lots of projects across the world that have been driven by Swedes, especially, the business model fits very nicely to the culture as well. So as a people, we're very open, we're very straightforward, and we're very direct in the way we approach business. And I think that is pretty much transferable to any culture.
That's fantastic. So let's go back to the projects. How many current projects you have? How many projects that you have done already? Give us a little bit of feedback to our listeners or our viewers.
Sure. So Mexico is our first one. So that's our proof of concept. We're in discussions at the moment for 3 locations in the US and 2 in the UK and 1 in Australia. We've got quite a firm option in the middle of the States, but that's going to be coming in at the end of next year probably. But our focus at the moment is the US and the UK.
And the US, are you East Coast, West Coast? Where are the projects coming?
So 2 of them are on the in the California district, and one. Sorry, there's 4. So there's 1 in Miami, 1 in Texas, and 2 in California. So we're talking.
Exciting. Where in Miami?
We haven't decided. We're looking for some. We're
PBA.
looking for a sugar daddy with a bit of land.
We'll have to have a second, interview there to talk about that.
That's exciting. No, I think it's great. The West Coast really needs some more paddle, and there's so many projects. So, how is the Sweet experience right now? You guys reached that peak, you bottom down. Now, where are you guys at? And then compared to the United States, where do you see it?
So I think obviously Sweden is very much more mature than most markets. Spain and Sweden are probably the most 2 advanced markets in the world at the moment. So at the moment in Sweden, there's about 450,000 paddle players, which is the same as golf.
Wow.
So I think, yeah, and it's quite an impressive number as well. So, but the interesting part is that we've seen the amount of clubs go down. So the concentration of clubs has gone down. They've become better clubs. They've become better run clubs. So what happened in the beginning? Everyone had a paddle court. Everyone, especially during COVID. And that was one of the oddly strange, one of the biggest explosion of sports in Sweden. Obviously, you know that we didn't have a full lockdown like the rest of the world. We did things a little bit differently, but the sport just exploded. So everyone had a court. What happened then was that big corporations came in, bought them, and they weren't. There was no sense of community. There was no sense of pride in the clubs. So what ended up happening there, that they got given back to the original owners and are now driven very successfully because they have that passion, they have that connection to the community, and that connection is priceless. And I think a lot of the time it gets ignored, or it doesn't get taken seriously, which is what we want to avoid with our arenas.
So what are your tactics to do that? I mean, it's easier said than done, right? So do you get into politically? Do you talk with businesses, corporations? Why don't you talk to our viewers how they can start doing that?
So at the foundation, it's all about money. Unfortunately, any sport is driven by the economic benefits, but the health benefits as well. So a healthy people, and the better it is for local government. So what we've started to do now is we've started to have conversations with local government to see if we can play into their agendas locally. We talk to local community leaders, we talk to local businesses to find out, engage with them to see, so how can they get involved in the sport in terms of advertising, in terms of events at the venue, and what's missing in the local community. Is there a specific kind of school that needs help getting kids more into sports? The elderly, the disabled. So we'd like to talk to as many people as we possibly can to form that specific venue according to the local community. Then with the containers and the restaurant, we don't want chains. We don't want these big McDonald's. We don't want to have any too big corporations for this, because it is a community-based sport. So we want local artists. We want local companies to have the coffee shop there. We want whoever is in the local community and has the ability to run a shop there, help them get into it.
Gotcha. Maybe even after school programs for kids.
And that exactly. So we're working quite a lot with a few charities in Mexico as well, and we're going to be giving away quite a few scholarships to local talents, and through Bull Paddle and a few other. And Navarro is also pitching in here as well to give away scholarships there as well. So definitely a focus on giving young talent the chance to actually do well.
Okay, so let's talk to future, paddle club owners or inspiring ones. What boxes do they need to have to check mark off for you guys to be like, hey, this is a good candidate to invest in?
So first, passion. You have to have a passion, and you have to have the drive and willingness to put in the long hours. It's been at times painful. To do the Mexican thing, it's been frustrating. There have been tears. There's been quite a lot of drama. But if you don't have that drive, you're not going to succeed. So what we'll do as a consultancy, we'll sit with the potential owners or investors and understand. So from an investor point of view, this is what's required, and from an owner point of view, this is what is required. And then we try and match the people that work together well. So if somebody's really experienced in business but no sports, we try to pair them with somebody who has a background in sports, and vice versa, obviously, because it'll only benefit whoever is running the place to have the opposite counterpart running it. And then we also obviously pitch in with the marketing, we pitch in with anything that we can do as a company to make them succeed. And this is why we try and retain a 10% ownership in that, because it gives us the motivation to also do that. And we don't want to take away the money from the venue and the owner either, because that money can go back into community programs. So we'll sit with the community, help them build community programs, outreach programs, training programs, school programs, whatever is required. But we mustn't forget, this is a money game. They have to make a profit. So in terms
So
of,
you
sorry, go ahead.
no finish. I'm sorry.
So in terms of an angel investor, for example, our investor, there is a return of investment within 3 to 5 years, and that is with very, very realistic booking numbers at about 40 to 50%, 30 to 40% booking. And the rest of the money comes from the other streams in business, like sponsorship, rentals, restaurants, everything.
So you said 10% equity. Is that to the agency, I'm assuming, not to
That's
the investors?
no, that's to
Okay,
us as a company. Yes.
okay. So what services you provide for that 10% equity?
So we'll put obviously we'll help them with negotiations with sponsors. We'll help them negotiation with finding what kind of courts they want. So we're in initial conversations with quite a few of the major court manufacturers to choose one that will go into all of our centers. That will then obviously equate into cheaper courts and lower prices. So the investment becomes lower. We try and keep sponsors on board that are big enough. So if we had a Coca-Cola, for example, we would approach them and say, listen, we've got centers in America, Mexico, UK. We would like for you to sponsor all of these venues, and we would distribute that sponsorship money to all the centers, and then obviously have an agreement in place so that they can generate extra revenue from that. So we're basically facilitating them. We'll help them with coaching. We'll help them finding professionals. We'll do anything that's required effectively to make them a success.
So compare tell us how far you're in advance with the Mexican. Is the Mexican club already operational?
We're in the final stages of lawyers are involved. Let's just put it that way.
Okay, and
So
are you guys in Mexico City, or where you're located?
Metepec, so about an hour outside Toluca is the closest city.
Toluca. And how many courts do you have there?
We will have 9 standard courts and 2 championship courts with an arena so that people can watch the tournaments, etc. there.
Indoors or outdoors?
That is optional. So at the moment, we're going to have a form of roof, but it's not going to be closed because of obviously the temperatures in Mexico are very beneficial compared to, you have to have a roof in Sweden, otherwise it's not an option. But in Mexico, you have the option of not doing that. And that's the benefit of our model as well. You can choose without roof, you can choose with roof, you can basically mix and match according to the requirements of the local venue.
And then here in the United States, are you trying to do something similar?
We want to take the concept and move it to the United States, and ideally we would then look to go for areas that are not fully developed yet. California, as you said, there is a lot of things going on there, but there's nothing community based in the same way of we are doing. And I also think actually Miami is a fantastic location for that with the Latino community. There is such a passion for the sport there, and again, most of the venues there are prime pricing wise, and also it's a very high end establishment. We're looking for the mid market to really capture the imagination.
Now, in your model, is there an exit plan at a certain point or not?
No, we have no plans of exiting. I'm not naive enough to think that somebody's not going to try and buy us at some point if there is a success, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But we have no plans of jumping ship. This is our passion. This is what we love to do. We love sports and we love paddle. So for us, we're in the long haul.
I'm not necessarily in your agency, but I mean in the clubs that you're putting together.
So that again, I think that depends. I mean, if for any club that we have an ownership on, we would prefer that the same owner sticks with it for a while. However, considering they have a 90% stake in it, then we would support a sale should that happen down the line.
That's interesting. So let me ask you one thing. You're originally from Sweden, correct?
I'm actually half English, half Norwegian, and I temporarily live in Sweden.
So you live in Sweden.
I do, yes.
So let me ask you something very interesting that happened. Sweden was not even close in the map in the World Championships of paddle. You know, the seniors, the opens, and the juniors. You guys ended up third, or the Swedes ended up third on the last Junior World Cup. Do you think what do you think happened there from being nowhere in the top 20 to ended up, you know, on the best top 3 in the world?
We're trying to make friends here, man, not enemies. Come on.
Yeah. So
No,
my
I mean,
Norwegian part wants to really say something bad about Sweden, but my English part is stopping me. So.
No, this is going back to what you were saying that you know, you guys have the peak and the bottoms, and then the clubs that survive focus really in community and programming and things like that. And I believe that one of the things that the Swedes really focus on is in junior development, and that was the result of, you know, that junior development the last, you know, 4 or 5 years that you guys created a top-notch junior teams. That's my belief.
No, I would have to agree with you there. I think the grassroots, as we've spoken about, is the key to success in any sport. So if you have a strong grassroots movement, then you will see progress down the line. I think what happened in Sweden was that because there were so many paddle arenas, it wasn't developing in the way that they wanted to, and it was primarily focused on the money side of it. When COVID ended and the sport really took its place in the market, I think that's when you started to see the youth really getting involved in this. And because it's a smaller court, it's more explosive, it's more complex. I think that pretty much sold it to the Swedes from that perspective.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about business and sports. How do you relate both of them together, and how do you create a balance?
So Deloitte came out with a survey, and they found that the paddle market by 2028 is going to be worth approximately 4.3 billion US dollars, while the meetings and facilities industry is valued at 1.2 trillion by that same year. So for us, it seemed like a very logical connection to put the two together, because what we've seen from the explosion in golf is that golf and business go hand in hand. We want to steal from golf, effectively. We want to recreate that model and make it a business friendly, but also a competitive environment, so that it can flourish in both the corporate world, but also in the professional world.
Wow, that's genius. Yeah, I mean, focus on something that already works. You know.
Yeah, well, going back to the business world, I live that every day at our club Ultra, where people are telling me that, you know, they come to the club not only just to play paddle, but they have nice locker rooms where they can shower, and then they can spend time, a couple hours there doing some work. Sitting on the tables and having a cup of coffee and all that, and creating that community. It goes with your your vision as as an investor. I mean, I think that's the key. Creating the whole 360 synergy is crucial for the success of the club.
Is that also part of your model, creating like a business location where people could do their work and stay there, do their work, and then play paddle and so forth, or even rent spaces out? Is that also an option or something you guys focus on?
So we have a business center that will be available to members as well. We're debating a little bit, depending on location, whether or not we can lease that out to a kind of a WeWork version, just a successful one, and or that we're going to rent it out by the hour. Either way, members of the club and even non-members, because we don't want to lock it to members. We want the community, everyone, to get involved in the sport. So if you start off in the business center and you watch it, you might get involved, or vice versa. You'll see that when you're playing, you'll see people going into a meeting room. You'll inquire about that, and you can say, okay, well, I can do a little bit of business here, either before or after I've played a game, and then you can enjoy the bar, and then you keep them on the venue. And that's, I think, is how you develop that community, and how you get people involved in the sport as well. It doesn't have to be sports only, it could be business. And then we see entrepreneurs that will be setting up there as well, and having business meetings and bringing external people in. So for us, it kind of made sense to try and marry the two.
Yeah, I truly believe that's the secret of success.
And to invest in a club, how many courts do they have to be? Do they have to be indoor? Can some of it be outdoor? What are you guys really looking for?
So
Excuse me.
for the courts, I think it's very important. Again, it depends on where it's located. So if it's in Toronto, outside courts is not going to work, right? So if it's in Miami, probably more likely to have outdoor courts, the majority outside courts, but also have indoor courts for schools, especially, and for that security aspect for kids to come into the venue and feel safe in that environment. Um, if it's raining, you can still play if you have a few indoor courts, so that you'll always have that revenue flow. In Mexico, even though it is an extremely warm country, we've put a semi roof on, so as I said, it'll cover everything and stop the sun, but the wind flow and the airflow will be constant there. So you will have an outdoor feel to it. And again, it depends on the location. If you're on the coast, on the cliffs, obviously having some sort of wind deterrent would make sense. But if you're inland, you might have some other issues.
So what's the minimum court and minimum like square footage or acreage that the property has to be for you guys to invest in the club?
So in terms of size, I think what we've recommended is that we have a minimum of 9, 8, 9, 7 courts as a bare minimum, because otherwise, from a financial sustainability model, it becomes a bit complicated. You need that many to drive the restaurant, and you need that many to drive people engagement into the container shops as well, and also to the business center. Too small, people won't look at it as a serious venture. But if you have a decent size of 7, 8, 9, then people will come up. I don't think it should be too big either. So you need to have a cap. And we haven't quite worked out the best cap for that yet, but it's something that will be coming pretty soon, I think.
How about in areas that people want to build clubs, but there's no exposure there yet, and you have time, you have to educate people. Are you still looking for that many courts, or you're you're going to invest in a company and maybe that puts up 4 courts with a option of potential putting in another 4 or 6?
I think we would probably not go into the areas where anything
Okay.
less than 7 or 8 would go in. I think it would be unfair for us to go in there, and unfair for the investor to go in there as well. So we wouldn't be able to support them at the same level. So we would probably advise them. We can easily advise them from a consultancy point of view, but from our investors, I don't think it's the best way to go forward.
Even in an area that there's no exposure, you need to educate people about uh, paddle, or you won't really, you'll avoid those areas.
We won't avoid them, but we would prefer to attack that from a consultancy point of view.
Okay.
However, we have investors that also are have hometowns in small areas that want to really go for it. Obviously, we're not going to say no to them either.
So let's talk a little bit something very, very interesting that you mentioned before, sustainability. how the whole process works and what is exactly, so for our viewers and listeners to learn more.
So we have three sustainability models, which is based on economics, sport, and environmental. So for us, that is the pillar to success, as well as the as everything else. So from a environmental point of view, we install sun cells on top of the all of our venues, so that the place is then self-sufficient, and they can then obviously sell then any excess energy to the grid back in various countries. So I know here in Sweden, for example, that is a very successful model, because we generate, even though the 2 months that we do get sun, it's a lot of sun. So that energy can get sold back to the grid, and then they can get a decent income from that as well. So that filters back in then to the economic sustainability. We want the venue to be sustainable, not only based on sport, but also from business and local community. If you can get everyone involved, we estimate that 70% of the income of the center could be non-sports related. And I think from that point of view, the stress of running a club becomes a lot less. You can focus on the sports instead of focusing on the money part, and then you can really drive the game home with every aspect of the community.
Wow, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
that's genius, to be honest with you.
And let's talk about something exciting, Paquito Navarro. And what is the link between you, the company, and the super mega paddle star, Paquito Navarro?
Yes, we're lucky enough for Patrick, our partner, to know a few people in paddle, and we reached out to him, and he loved our idea. He thought it was a really good way for him to get involved into Mexico as well. So we're currently talking to him about having an exclusive deal with his platform on at our venues, so that people can then learn the sport a lot better, and then his program can then help develop the next generation of Mexican stars into paddle. So it's a great marriage for us. We're incredibly lucky to even be considered by him. We're very eternally grateful for that. But I think it's a testament to the project.
All right, Magnus, let's talk about the North American expansion. What are your goals there?
Well, we want our biggest goal is to ensure that paddle is entered into the Olympics in 2032. For us, I think that's the lofty goal that we have. And to do that, you need a considerable amount of players. For any sport to get into the Olympics, that is the holy grail, I think. And if we can do it through America, and I think considering that 90% of all sponsorships into the Olympics are American or Chinese, it is a market that needs to be strong. And with the financial muscle in the US as well, and the interest in sport in the US, it makes sense. So for us, the US is our next frontier. We've proven the concept. We've got interested backers in Mexico. Now we want to bring it over to America in all its glory, and further develop the concept there.
Okay, Magnus, thank you for coming on the show. We want to welcome you. Wish you all the luck.
All the luck.
Thank
all
you
the
very
best.
much.
We are All Things Paddle.